fam? Welcome to the Living For You YouTube channel. It is me, your favorite cousin, your favorite uncle, your favorite brother, your best friend's best friend, me, Dr. Larry. And once again, welcome to the Living For You YouTube channel. This is a place where we come to decompress. This is a place where we come to get it all out so that we can be present and live whole and be happy. So welcome to this place, all of you. Those of you who are continual subscribers, who continually come here each week, multiple times a week, just to be right here, I'd like to say thank you. I love you. You're my heart. You're connected. We're all one. Thank you for being here. To those of you who are new, if you didn't know, I am Dr. Larry Smith. Dr. Larry is in Dr. Larry PhD. I own a business called Living For You Coaching. It is a life coaching practice in which my particular specialization in my life coaching practice is I help African American males between the ages of 18 to 40 deal with a past trauma to help them move more into the present center that they can be. Because that's what it's all about. It's about living present, being present, living a life that you want to live and not a life that just happens to you. And so that's what we do here. So welcome those of you who are new. Everybody who is here at this lovely table that we have prepared today as a family. Go ahead and hit like, drop a comment, drop some suggestions for things we can cover in our videos. And also go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. And also hit the notification bell so that you're aware of when I drop stuff. You're able to go there and it'll pop up, it'll give you an email or a message in your YouTube, and you will know when there is a new video out there. So go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you can also go out and get more information at www.liveforyoucoaching.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's on the screen at Dr. Larry Smith. We're available. I'm available. We're here. The whole goal is that we're in this together. And so our goal is to be able to grow and expand and be the best us that we can possibly be in this together. So welcome to everybody. We've already started a series that we're going to be continuing in our Monday meetings. That series is on Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. I've said last couple of times that we were talking, and even in videos before, this is one of my favorite books. And the reason why it is one of my favorite books is because when we have moments of tense stress, moments where things seem chaotic, it kind of is a book I can go back and I can read to recondition, or should I say better, realign my mind with my true self, so that I am able to be the best me that I can be in that moment. Because the honesty of it is that when these moments of everything go a certain way, there tends to be a forgetting of our true nature, of our true self. And I think that it is important that we find ways to do it. And so for me, reading this book is one of the ways that I realign myself with my center self. And so it is a very important text to me, and I think it's very important for me to share. So we've been discussing The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, in our meetings. So we've been working through chapter 1. Today we're going to kind of wrap up chapter 1 with a part 3, and we're going to discuss more. But just know, in chapter 1 we discussed many things. We discussed our minds and being identified by the things of our minds, and we talked about how our minds are conditioned instinctively to be survivalists, right? We compete in many ways. We compete against other minds, other people. We build separations. I tend to say we put walls in between all of us, between us and other people, and we see divisions and we identify with those things. And in those things that we think about ourselves and think about everything in our mind, we begin to identify with those things, many times unconsciously, but at times also consciously, we do that same thing. That Eckhart Tolle refers to as ego, being identified with your mind, right? And so we have to realize that we're not our mind. Our mind is not who we are. In fact, we're advised and we're admonished, as we talked about last week as well, to observe our mind, to pay attention to our mind. But more importantly, it is also to know that there's a mind and body connection, right? Your body tells you what your mind is feeling and thinking, and there's a connection. So we'll talk more and more about that. But just know that your mind is set on survival. It is programmed that way, but your mind is not the creative energy. Your mind didn't create the universe. It wasn't mind that created the universe, that artists use to develop their wonderful things that they're creating, their art. It's something a lot deeper than that, than just the mind. But the mind represents a lower stage of evolution. When you're preoccupied by the mind, this is a lower stage. And the goal is to get to nirvana. The goal is to get to the Buddha nature. The goal is to get to salvation, our highest consciousness. But operating from a mind identity is not the way to be connected to your highest consciousness. In fact, it is ego. And once again, like I said, ego is just identifying yourself with your mind. And we do it all the time. It's something that we do. And in the moment that we're living in, if you look around, you see a lot of egoic thinking. You see people walking in ego, talking in ego. Turn on some of the news stations. Talk to people out there in the streets. Talk to people in your family. Go on social media, read some of the things, and you will definitely see an egoic state of being. So today we're going to talk and kind of round this first chapter out and deal with emotions. Because emotions are not your body, emotions are not your mind, but emotions are the body's reactions to your mind, right? You've seen people who just act completely, totally out of their emotions. It's almost as though they've lost control of their mind, when reality is your emotions is your body's response to your mind. And in many ways, they have lost control. So it's obviously important that you know that you have to understand and be able to pay attention even to those emotions, because they tell you about your mind and you feel it mostly in your body. So here's the thing. When we say mind, or at least when Eckhart Tolle says mind in this book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle isn't just talking about thoughts. Thoughts are one part of it, yes. But this includes emotions. This includes anything of our unconscious mental emotion reactive patterns. All of that is mind. So it includes emotions, it includes thoughts, it includes all of those things combined. That is what he refers to when he's referring to mind. So being identified with that stuff, all of that stuff. And emotion is where mind and body meets, you know. Emotion is a reflection of your mind in your body, right? So emotions are important, but they're not important to allow to unconsciously consume you. They're important for us to pay attention to them. Your body can be impacted if you're out of emotion and you're living from that place unconsciously, continually, you know, habitually, perpetually. Think about it. When you're a person who's very, very, very mad all the time, right? They feel like they want to fight, like they want to be aggressive, or they want to do something aggressive. You usually talk to them and you can sense a person who lives from an angry emotion all the time. Over time, that angry emotion corrodes their body, and eventually that could lead to hypertension, which is high blood pressure. That could lead to all other ailments, heart attacks, breathing problems, all out of a habitual life of living within your emotions. According to Eckhart Tolle, and I'll read it, the more you are identified with your thinking, your likes and your dislikes, your judgments and your interpretations, which is to say the less present you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be, whether you're aware of it or not. I'll read that again because it's a deep thought that I would like you all to just get, for all of us to get here. The more you are identified with your thinking, your likes and dislikes, judgments and interpretations, which is to say the less present you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be, whether you are aware of it or not. And remember, I said the watching consciousness, as we talked about the 2 times before this particular meeting, we talked about being able to observe your thoughts. You know, the mere fact that you can observe your thoughts is evidence that you're not your thoughts. And so when we talk about thinking consciousness, that's what we mean. So if you cannot feel your emotions, you'll eventually begin to experience them in some other way. And it's usually sometimes a negative way, a disease, a physical problem, or some symptoms if you're not a person who's connected or in touch with your emotional being, your emotions. That is very important. And so a strong unconscious emotional pattern begins to manifest itself externally. in your body. But even there are times I've met people in my life who, anytime they go out in public, it seems like they're having a disagreement with somebody. Whether or not it's at the store, whether or not it's on the streets, whether or not it's a neighbor or anybody they come in contact generally, a lot of times at least, it's a negative interaction with them. And they seem to attract almost that energy. That is what having an unconscious negative emotion does to you. It does, you attract that energy, because like energy attracts like energy. If it's a dark energy, it's going to attract dark energy. If it's a light energy, it's going to attract light energy. So if you've stirred up that within yourself, that is what you're going to attract. And you tend to see that all the time. It externalizes itself. Not only does it internalize and affect your body in the form of disease and other things in that negative emotion, but it also has an external attraction, magnetism, to attract that same energy. So in order to get beyond that, what you have to do is you have to be able to feel your emotions. Just as you have to be able to observe your thoughts, you have to be able to observe and feel your emotions. And if there is a separation between what you're thinking versus what you're feeling, then you have to come to the realization that the thought is the lie. The thought is the lie. The emotion is the truth of where you are. So there should be a connection in which your thoughts and your emotions are on the same page. But you guys know, being humans, many times your thoughts and your emotions may not be on the same page. Eckhart Tolle says the thought is the lie. The emotion is telling the truth. And that is not the ultimate truth of who you are. It's not expressing who you are. It's expressing the state of your mind, the state of your consciousness at that particular time, right? So you can't trust your emotions to tell you, hey, this is who you are, at that, especially if it's not trained to do that, or you haven't worked that muscle out. But you can trust your emotions to give you a clear indication of your state at that moment, right? At that moment. So if there's a division, like say if you're trying to feel your emotions, then your mind's saying something completely different, you can ignore the mind in that instance, because the emotions is telling the more present truth of your state. You have to just as well watch your emotions as you have to watch your thoughts. Remember, we said last couple of times that you sit back, you observe your thoughts, you can wonder, why is this thought there? Is this a useful thought that's going to serve you for a greater purpose, to have and to keep on your playlist? Or is it something that you can just delete? And it's the same thing from emotions. What is the purpose of this emotion? What is it giving me? And is it something that is it useful to me? And if not, then why are you having it? And I always say to people, you can take this and do it with any emotion. So say, for example, if you're talking about anger, you can go back to anger. I'm so angry. This person made me so mad. It's always about your perception, really, your thoughts about what happened that really creates the emotions, right? And so you have to question, is this anger justified in the moment? And is this anger something that is useful in the grand scheme of emotions, right? But just think of it this way. Thoughts are from your head. Emotions are reflected generally in your body, right? Thoughts in the head, emotions are reflected generally in the body. And so what you have to do is, in order to truly understand your emotions, you have to just feel them. Don't try to deny them. Don't try to fight them. Don't try to push them away and say, I can't feel that way. No, feel it. Have it. Engage it internally. Don't dwell in it, but engage that emotion. Emotions just amplify thought. And emotion and thought sometimes feed into one another and strengthen one another, unconsciously most times, but sometimes consciously as well. So it is important that you know that. You have to understand that your emotions are really, according to Eckhart Tolle, modifications of one primordial indifference that emotions are. That's really what they are. And they come from this loss of awareness of yourself beyond the form, beyond the what you see, the physical, your name recognition, how you identify yourself. Emotions represent those things. They represent that you're detached from who you truly are. And as you remember in the first week, we talked about that attachment to being. So emotions show an unattachment to being, right? But you will not be free of pain until you cease to derive your sense of self from the identification with your mind, which is the ego. I'll read that one again too, because that's another big point. You will not be free of pain until you cease to derive your sense of self from identification with the mind, or being in a state of ego. And so when we talk about emotions, we aren't talking about temporary, external, shallow things. We're talking about that's what we're talking about when we talk about emotions. When we talk about true sense of things that you should feel, we're not talking about emotions, which are temporary, shallow things that are not permanent, that are not good. Like, for example, love, joy, and peace are deep states of being. They don't have any opposites. Love, joy, and peace do not have opposites. There's no opposite of joy. There's no opposite of peace. There's no opposite of love, truly, authentically, right? When it comes to emotion, sometimes we think that joy is an emotion. No, joy is not an emotion. The emotion that is related to joy that we sometimes mix up is happiness. So think of happiness as the emotions. Right now, I feel happy. And generally, you feel happy because of some external thing. It's not an internal state. It's an external state. And something can come in that same moment, and that happiness can switch over to unhappiness, to sadness, right? Whereas joy, true joy on the inside, is a perpetual state of who you are in the long run, right? In the long run. It is who you are permanently to, if you want to say. You can have a perpetual, permanent state of joy, but happiness is temporary. So emotions, unlike these connected to the permanent state of being, like love, joy, and peace, emotions are part of the dualistic mind, according to Eckhart Tolle. And they're subject to the law of opposites. What that means there's always something opposite to that emotion. So there's an opposite to happiness, to sadness. There's an opposite to anger. There's not being angry. Those are things that are subject to the law of opposites. The law of as long as there's a good, there is a bad. Good and evil, dualistic. Something that we do is we create a dualistic world when we separate ourselves. Just as we separate ourselves from people we quote unquote don't like or we hate, or we separate ourselves amongst races, amongst genders, amongst sexual orientations, amongst disabilities, ability statuses, amongst economic means, political parties. Those dualistic things seem to create opposites. That is the law of separation, and that comes usually from a state of emotion, right? A state of emotion. But you can't. In order for those things to be valid, in order for emotions to be valid, there has to be this kind of dualistic thing. Good can't exist without bad on an emotional level. That is a fact, right? So the goal is to be able to move beyond that. The goal is to be able to observe these emotions and figure out whether or not they're useful. Observe them as you should be observing your thoughts to figure out whether or not your thoughts are useful. See, there is I call it your I God playlist, where you have a whole list of these things, whether it is thoughts, whether it is emotions, self-identifiers, how you identify other people, judgments, interpretations of many different things. And we play them over and over and over and over again. But just because there's something that is within that is playing unconsciously or consciously over and over and over again does not make it a truth or the bigger truth, right? The bigger truth. And so that is why it is so important that you observe and you pay attention and you think about your thoughts, or you think and observe and think about your emotions on a deeper level. Now, somebody's thinking, what about pain? There's this thing called pain. We all have this thing called pain. Well, you have to understand that there are two levels to pain. And Eckhart Tolle deals with that. And that's what we're going to be moving into when we go to the next chapter, is dealing on the two levels of pain. But to set it up as a teaser, the two levels of pain, so that you know, is that there's the pain we create now in the present. And then there is past pain that has a space in our lives now in the present. Because past is not something that can be reclaimed. Past is nothing you can control. And I always tell people, future is nothing you can control. So the pain that you're feeling from the past mistakes or the past issues or the past traumas that you've been through, or the anxieties and the insecurities that you might have about the future, all that pain and those feelings that you have about that It's stuff you're using in the present, that you're feeling presently. And that's what pain is. And it's important, very, very important, that we understand that this is part of our minds, and we have to protect our minds against the unnecessary thoughts and emotions connected to this present pain that's being created. But anyway, that is something we will talk about next time. We will get into that and go deeper. I really hope that you are getting the sense of what we're saying. I'm hoping that those who have been coming and watching and observing and discussing and with us these weeks, hopefully you're reading the text with us. And so when we go into it, we'll break it into different things and make it have more meaning for us. And we'll discuss it and try to draw some correlations and some connections and give examples so that you can see how it plays into your life. But just know from chapter 1 of Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, just know what we're saying is that your mind and your thoughts are things that you have. They're not things that you are. And when you identify with those mind, that is what we call ego. And in a state of ego, you feel all types of emotions because your emotions are from your body, a reflection of what your thoughts are. And you will feel those thoughts if they're not thoughts that are aligned with the true essence of being, God, the universe, the highest consciousness, nirvana, salvation, the Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. But that when you're focused, your mind generally isn't connected to that, right? Your mind's all about survival. Your mind's all about comparison. Your mind's all about labeling and differentiating between you, other people, other things. So it's not something you should want to identify yourself with, because that's called living unconsciously. According to Eckhart Tolle, according to me, according to most spiritualists, we believe that living in a state of unconsciousness is being connected to what you see, what you think, and living from that place of identifying that as who you are. But those of us who want to go to a higher consciousness, we realize that there's something pervasive through everything that's bigger than that. And our goal, our hope, and it's what all religions are based on, is a chance to get to that, right? To tap into that. And you can. You have to be conscious and intentional about it. And that's what we're discussing here. And this power, the book, The Power of Now, is about that present moment. It's about dealing in the present, living from a consciousness of the present, and really feeling the essence of things like love, joy, and peace, which are permanent fixtures of presence. That's where we'll stop. So I look forward to seeing you all. Remember, you can hit me up at Dr. Larry on Instagram, Dr. Larry Smith on Instagram and on Facebook. You can visit www.liveforyoucoaching.com, get more information. We can have coaching sessions. I have free materials out there. Find your way there so that you can become the best you can be, because that is your ultimate goal, is to live the life of your dreams. It doesn't have to be of your dreams. It could be of your reality. But no, it is in the control of you. Nothing else, no one else controls that ability for you to live the life of your dreams but you. So I hope you feel this. I hope you get that. And as I always say, I will see you all in the next video.